Alright, so we've got two equations to solve with the zero product property, one of which is going to be easy, one of which is going to be a little bit more work. How do I know which one's going to be easy from the get-go? Well, I think about the zero product property. 3 words, 3 steps. Step 1, 0, you have to have an equation equal to 0. This equation is already equal to 0. Step 1 is taken care of. That makes this an easy equation. This equation is not equal to 0. That means that this is an equation where I'm going to need to do some work. More math is involved when you're not equal to 0 yet. Anyway, back to the easy equation. Step 1 was to make sure the equation was equal to 0. That got taken care of. Step 2 was to ensure that we had a product equal to 0. That's what we have here. We've been told that this quantity times this quantity makes 0. I have a situation where 2 things are being multiplied together to give me 0. That's good. Because I have a product equal to 0, I'm allowed to apply the property. This property is great. It says that if one thing times another thing equals 0, 0 doesn't just come out of nowhere. 0 is the answer to a multiplication problem if 0 was in the multiplication problem. There's no way that these 2 numbers multiply to make 0 unless one of them is 0. Simply put, if 0 is the answer to a multiplication problem, 0 must have been part of the problem. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that if this quantity times this quantity makes 0, one of these quantities must be 0. It must be the case that 2x minus 5 is equal to 0 unto itself, or this bubble, x plus 4, is equal to 0 unto itself. We're saying that this whole thing, if it was 0, out of 0 times something, and I get 0, that works. Or if this whole thing is equal to 0, I'd have something times 0, and the equation would work. So I just need to find the values of x that would make this whole factor 0, or this whole factor 0. Over here, that's easy. I subtract by 4, and I find that when x equals negative 4, this whole factor becomes 0, and the multiplication problem works. This one takes just slightly more work. Don't be intimidated by having more stuff here. Simply use your existing algebra skills to solve for the value of x that would make this whole thing become 0, making the equation equal 0. I will add 5 to both sides, and that gives me that 2x should be equal to 5. And then I will divide by 2 on both sides, securing the fact that if x is equal to 5 halves, this whole factor becomes 0, and I have 0 times something, which makes 0. It works. I've successfully applied the property. I found 2 values of x that if I plug them in, make a factor 0, thus making the whole multiplication problem 0. These are my solutions. As I said, this problem is going to take more work because it's not equal to 0. There was no need to FOIL over here because we were already equal to 0. Because we're not equal to 0 here, we need to do mathematical work. We need to FOIL this out. This is going to FOIL to x squared minus 3x plus 5x minus 15. So I've done some work, and the reason that was useful is now I can make my equation equal to 0. I can get ready for the zero product property. I'm going to subtract by 9 on both sides to get that x squared plus 2x minus 24 equals 0. It wasn't equal to 0 at the beginning, so I did work. I FOILed. And now I have an equation that's equal to 0. Check. I want to turn this equation into a product. I want it to turn into a multiplication problem, so I'm going to factor. Factoring is the process of turning an addition and subtraction problem into a multiplication problem. To x plus 6 minus 4. I now have a product equal to 0. This entire quantity times this entire quantity equals 0. So one of those quantities must have been 0 in the first place. I know that x plus 6 will only equal 0 when x is negative 6. So that's one solution to this equation. I also know that this quantity, x minus 4, will only equal 0 when x is 4. So that's also a solution to this equation. And if you plug these in, you can see that they work. For example, 4 plus 5 makes 9. 4 minus 3 makes 1. 9 times 1 is indeed 9. It works. I have successfully done some work, gotten the equation equal to 0, turned it into a product, applied the property, and found the solutions.